Aloha. Welcome to Psychic Development and Channeling class number 9 with Liah Howard. Thank you so much for being here. So today we're going to be talking about the healthy inner child as the seat of your intuition. We're going to do a quick review. I want to remind you first to use your text chat box down in the corner there. You can send messages to me and I can respond. It's usually best to save questions till the end of the seminar. All right. So class 9, the healthy inner child, the seat of your intuitive knowing. Look at these children, how happy they are. That really is our natural state of being. And we're going to talk about how having a healthy inner child helps us to be a really good psychic, clear and open and able to receive the messages from our higher self. So first we're going to review some of the homework from last week. We're going to answer a few questions and we're going to learn about the inner child's influence on our ability to be a good psychic. And then we have a homework assignment, of course. Each week we have different homework assignments. So part of the homework for last time was before getting dressed, you're supposed to go to your closet, open it up, and see what your intuition was telling you to wear, rather than just automatically choosing the same thing, to really listen inside. And I'm wondering how you did with that, if you were able to really tune in to what was right, and also to, in terms of looking in the closet, and also we were going to see about for the day, what was the right thing for you to be doing that day, to feel inside what was to do and what to eat that day. We were going to work on stimulating the pineal gland through the pulsation in the shower, through focusing on the blue light, and through opening that area up. So I'm hoping that you did that to open up your third eye. We were also going to practice on the circle, the exercise with the circle, and focusing on the dot and really developing our ability to concentrate. Our ability to focus helps us when we receive information and messages from our guides and angels and higher self. The more we have the ability to focus, it's like clearing the glass so that the information comes through in a very, very clear and precise way. And so focusing is very important. We do that through meditation, and we do that also through these exercises that I gave you. And did you have fun checking to see who was on the phone and checking to see what your mail was? That's always fun to do both of those. The other homework assignment was to have a conversation with somebody that you really like, and then somebody that you really maybe aren't that comfortable with, or that you don't like. And yeah, it's true, no matter how spiritual we get, sometimes there's people that just energetically we don't kind of jive with. And to feel the difference in your body, so that as you become more and more psychic, you're really tuned into how your body either expands or shuts down, expands or contracts, so that you can feel what's going on inside while still staying active on the outside. So here are a few questions that I received this week. It says, I just started verbally channeling my guide, and I got a message from my sister. I found it hard not to edit the words. Any advice? Oh, thank you for this question. I may have mentioned it earlier on, but it's always good to review. When you're receiving psychic information, it's as though you're the mail carrier. You don't read the mail, you don't edit the mail, you just deliver the mail. You wouldn't want your mailman reading all of your mail and judging you on is this good, bad, or whatever. You would want to just receive it in sort of a neutral, impartial way. And that's how, when we're delivering psychic messages to loved ones or clients or people that have come to us for information, that we are just the open vehicle and receptacle, and we bring that forth in a non-judgmental fashion. So it's a little harder with family and friends. It's actually easier to do psychic readings for people that you don't know, because you have less attachment, you have less emotional involvement. But you can definitely get to that place of neutrality and openness with the people that you love as well, and to be able to deliver really good, clear messages to them. So I would say for this person who got the message for her sister, to look at what was her motivation. Did she have any kind of attachment to the outcome, in terms of if the person was asking about a relationship or health or career? I don't know. Those are some of the main areas that people ask about. Did you have any attachment to the outcome before you received the message? Usually messages that come from the guides they're really beneficial. They're always in the positive, and they are coming from the soul's perspective. So they're taking a situation, and instead of looking at just the little details of the situation, they're looking at the larger question of, why is it beneficial for this person to go back to school? Why is it beneficial for this person to change the status of a relationship? They're not just looking at the immediate gratification or the immediate happiness of the person. They're actually looking at the larger soul's path, what this person contracted to do before they came in, where they are on the path, and how they can help them. So their higher self is always working together with you and your guides when you're receiving information. The best thing I can say to you is the more that you practice, the more you're going to be able to discern when you're getting clear information, and when you feel connected, you'll actually feel very connected. It's sort of a different feeling in your body. I like to call it sort of between the worlds. And you'll know when you disconnect. There'll be a feeling of, I'm either making this up, or I'm wishing it, or I'm wanting to change it. And so whenever you notice those thoughts, reconnect. Don't continue giving messages. Always reconnect and go back inside until you feel a really strong connection to your soul, to your higher self, to your guides, and to the information that's coming through. So it can happen during a reading. You know, you might get distracted. There might be a noise, there might be a thought, or there might even be the information that's coming through is not what you want to particularly hear, but it's what that person needs to hear. So you want to take the time to go back inside, to reconnect, and to, you have a channeling checklist that I gave you early on in the first 5-week class. So you want to do the prayer again. You want to work with the breath again. You want to come back into center and then go ahead and finish. But good, I'm really glad you were practicing. That's great. That's how you do it. It's just like learning to swim. You have to practice. You have to get in the water and do it. How can I listen to my intuition when I can't sit still? The circle focusing exercise was hard for me. Okay. It's true. For some people, they really have difficulty quieting the body, and you know, those are the people who twirl their hair or bite their nails or shake their foot, or they take a pen and they're like doing this with the pen, and they're just kind of, they have this what I call frenetic nervous energy. It is harder for this type of personality to really get quiet and to meditate. So there's a couple suggestions I would make. One is, if you move the body and get really physically active, say if you go to the gym or you really work out, your body's more likely to be able to be still. If you meditate at the end of the day when the body is fatigued from doing things all through the day, your body is more likely to be still. When you do stretching like yoga and it really stretches the muscles out, it brings a calmness in the body. The breath, also working with the breath. And you might even be a person who would do really well with what is called the Zen walking meditation, where all of your focus is on each step that you take. So you feel the ground beneath your feet. You feel the air on your skin as you're walking. You feel the muscles contracting and lengthening as you walk. You bring all of your awareness and your attention. You give it a task. You sort of give your mind a task. And the Zen walking meditation, you could look it up online and they'll show you an example of it. It's very slow. It's not fast walking. It's a very slow, meditative walking. And this might be just the thing in terms of focus. You're still developing the focus. You're still developing the concentration, but you're doing it in a way that's more harmonious with your own rhythm, with your own internal way of being. And so I guess I would suggest that to you. Okay, number 3. You suggested doing the flower meditation, and I am wondering if it would work with a quartz crystal too. Everything has energy. Absolutely everything has energy. So yes, you could do that meditation, that focusing meditation. I don't have a flower in here today, but we talked about doing it with a flower where you feel the essence of the flower and you actually go into the inside of the flower. You definitely could do that with a quartz crystal. They carry very strong energy. You could even do it with a coin. You could do it with a piece of jewelry. We're going to be talking about that in a later class. Let's see, that's going to be in the last 4 classes. out of the 20 class series. That's psychometry, really holding an object and feeling the energy of it and getting the messages from it. So yes, and I would recommend doing that, to practice, practice, practice. And if you practice with different types of flowers, you're going to feel different energy in their vibration. Some flowers are group flowers, and some flowers are single flowers, like the sunflower is more of a single, strong, independent flower, whereas you get flowers like morning glories grow in groups on a vine, and then you get little mums that grow together. So, you know, there's all different kinds of flowers and messages that you can get as well. But again, it's about practicing. I'm glad to hear that you're practicing, that you're doing the exercises, and it'll get easier and easier and easier as you keep practicing and doing these exercises. They may seem very simple and very short, but they do make a difference in the long run. They really, really do. All right, let's move on. Here's Louise Hay, a great spiritual teacher. He's been on the path a long time and helped many, many people. I love this quote. I am perfect, whole, and complete, just as I am. Now, how many of us got that message when we were children? You're perfect. You are so whole, and you are complete, just as you are. I didn't get it. I know some people did, but a lot of us didn't get that message. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, is how can we come back into a place of wholeness? Because children, ultimately, when they're feeling whole and complete and perfect, that's when their intuition is the most open. And you can go to www.healyourlife.com for more information about Louise Hay and about the books that she's written. And she's done some inner child healing work as well. So here's a chart of feelings. Inner child healing work is important because our childhood beliefs can interfere with our ability to get clear messages, that they actually, as children, we're kind of like sponges. We're energetically picking up on all the feelings, all the people, all the thoughts that are around us. So if we received ideas, let's say you're around somebody who had a fear of death, and so you grew up with a fear of death, not really knowing why, but that was the main mode in your family. Then you carry that on, and then you go to open your psychic ability and connect with beings on the other side, and you're scared. And it's because your inner child was told when she was young that it was scary and that it wasn't safe. So what we're going to be doing is looking at some of this and opening our minds and hearts to reprogram and to really be present for our inner children and to heal. I remember I was deathly afraid of frogs. My mother had a frog phobia. And then I moved to Florida, which is frog central. I mean, there are so many frogs. There's teeny, teeny, tiny frogs, and then there's great big frogs. There's every size frog you can imagine and color. And I had a friend who lived on a lake, and she loved the frogs, and her children loved the frogs. And I was a young mother. I had one child at the time, and I didn't want my daughter to grow up being afraid of frogs like I was, that I had picked that up from my mother. And I said to my friend, her name was Joan, can you please help me? Can you help me get over my frog phobia so that my daughter, my oldest daughter, Ariel, won't be afraid of frogs? And she helped me, and we started with one tiny, a frog this big. It was teeny tiny, and I just held it in my hand. She picked it up. First, she held it in her hand. And then she said, do you want to hold it? And I just had to really breathe and really relax because it was very scary for me. And with her help, she held one hand and she gently placed it on my hand. And at first, I just jumped. I was so scared because my belief from childhood, growing up with my mother, who would freak out at any frog or toad or any kind of small creature, it was a body reaction. And then I got so I could hold this little tiny frog. And then I worked with her. Actually, it took a few weeks to actually get up to a large-sized frog. I would go out once a week, and we'd go to the pond, and I'd get a bigger frog and a bigger frog. Until now I can hold really big. Now I live in Maui, and we have these really huge toads. And I can hold them, and I'm fine. So we can get beyond our fears, and we can get beyond our beliefs that we have taken on energetically from our parents. But it takes consciousness, and it takes willingness, and it takes work. We have to be aware when we're reacting from one of those places. So because those behavioral patterns from childhood, they can restrict our ability to be open and flexible. And we want to be open and flexible so that we can feel our feelings. So we must be emotionally clear and neutral to be able to tune into intuitive guidance. Remember, I was talking about that a little bit ago. It's when we're in that neutral place without judgment and openness that we can receive the information. So this chart of the emotions, you can see that our emotions act as guideposts and psychic messages. And you can see the happy face, the angry face, the scared, nervous, all of these different emotions. Well, children generally process their emotions fairly rapidly. They feel something, they express it, and it passes. But when those emotions stay, it's because there's a belief that they're not good enough, they're not lovable, there's a fear there that's associated. And sometimes those fears get locked into our bodies on a cellular level. And we grow up, and as adults, we're still carrying this really anxious little being inside who's not trusting and not open. And so we're out of touch with our inner guidance because we have all of these other feelings going on in there. And a lot of times it has to do with not feeling good enough. So we'll be looking at that as well. The relationship with your inner child is the most important relationship you can have. It's more important than your relationship with your parents, with your spouse, with your children, with your animals, with your work, with your neighbor, with your friends. This is it. This is the most important relationship. And yet, this is the relationship that is probably neglected the most, is the relationship with the inner child. So you see this little girl looking in the mirror, and she's taking time to see herself. She's taking time to be with herself. A lot of us get busy with work or with responsibilities or with avoiding our emotional self or avoiding our inner child. So the inner voices that we can hear the mother and father, and that represents the conscious adult mind, the mature, rational, reasoning voice. And you see these parents are kind of funny because sometimes the reasoning voice isn't really making much sense because we incorporated our parents' kind of unbalanced way of looking at life. So if, let's say you have a mother who's really OCD, who has to have everything clean and neat and orderly, and she can't handle it at all if your bed's not made or if you're wearing 2 different color socks, and she gets very, very upset. And that's her energy. And as a child, you take that on and you feel like, oh, I have to have everything in order to be loved, to be okay. And so then you grow up, and as an adult, you find yourself compulsively cleaning your car and compulsively straightening everything on your desk and compulsively acting rather than acting from your true nature, which is more flowing. So the conscious adult mind becomes the subconscious critical programming. So what could be a positive, encouraging voice becomes an inner critical voice, and then that affects our ability. And in terms of psychic work, it can actually cut you off because you'll be saying you're not doing good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not clear enough, you're not whatever enough, that you're not open and trusting enough to allow that you have this natural gift, you have this natural ability. It is within you. We are all psychic. It's just a matter of tuning into it. But if you have those critical voices inside from perhaps parents that weren't healthy and whole, then it cuts you off from your intuition. The inner child represents the subconscious young mind where the memories are stored. And again, you see this little boy, and he's thinking about all the things that he hears about himself. He has his own ideas about himself, but he has a lot of information that he's gotten from the adults that have been around him. So if you're a child that your mother always says, oh, you're so pretty, or you be a strong boy, no crying, no feelings, you grow up with that messages. In order to get love, I have to feel pretty, or in order to get acceptance, I have to be strong and not feel my emotions. That's your subconscious that's always seeking that approval, even though you don't need it. You don't have to be pretty to be psychic. You don't have to be strong to be psychic and open. You just need to be in touch with your open, trusting inner child, spontaneous, sensitive self. So we're going to be looking at how can we come back into that place of our purest nature, so that who we are, I mean, we come in as sensitive, psychic, open beings, and we somehow get it cut off because we want approval. So I wanted to, just before we go on to this next slide, I wanted you to think about in your life right now, and think about other people and how they treat you in your life right now. And see if you can get a sense, do you feel that other people really respect you and honor you and listen to you and appreciate you and kind of really see your essence? Or does it feel like maybe that people are being a little critical or judgmental or maybe even a little rough or gruff or distant or unavailable to you? I want you to just do a really quick check in your heart right now and just feel, how does it feel for you in your life right now? How do people treat you? They usually generally happy to see you and excited, or is there some kind of energy of negativity in some way? Because you know what? If there is, it's okay, but that's what we want to look at today. Because the way that other people treat you in your life, deep, deep, deep inside, that's how you feel about your inner child. So that's a reflection. Everything out here in our world is a reflection of how we feel inside. And it might be that we were neglected as children, or we were abused as children, or we were not taken care of or criticized, and that we just took on those energies and those feelings. So that's why the prerequisite for psychic development with integrity is really getting to know yourself. You must have some understanding of yourself, of your thoughts, your feelings, the motivation for your thoughts and feelings, the underlying reasons, and to really have self-reflection. And taking responsibility for yourself is saying, you know, that person is being unkind, but perhaps they are my mirror in some way. They're reflecting that back to me. And that you take responsibility for your feelings and for loving yourself and for putting yourself in environments where you're surrounded by loving people. Sometimes I think our self-esteem can be so damaged from when we're children that we don't even realize how damaged we are until people around us start. I remember I had this job once, and I was teaching, and I worked with a co-teacher who was always late and didn't do the lesson plans. It was really very challenging for me because I'm very organized and on time, punctual, and that was my inner child, wanted to be the good girl and to perform. And this other teacher was I had to kind of pick up slack for her, and I realized that our inner children were very, very different. Like her inner child was more about flow and creativity, and it was okay if she wasn't there to greet the bus, and mine was about, we got to get this done, there's a job to be done. So we just want to notice our motivations and to know that she wasn't the way she was to hurt me in any way or to make me look bad. She was just being the way she was. And sometimes the people around us reflect a part of us. So in my family of origin, that was part of what I did, was being kind of responsible in that way. So in some circumstances. So one must have insight into their motives, desires, biases, and blocks. This is really important with psychic work. When you're doing a session for someone, if you have any kind of deep prejudice or deep bias against a situation, a belief, a circumstance, that will come through and it will color the reading, and you will not be getting a clear source of information. So we want to always get into that place of what I call the divine mind, that place of divine connection and unconditional love. And in that place, that's where we would start to do a psychic session from. So we want to respect others' beliefs, choices, and lifestyles. And in doing readings, when we're feeling happy and healthy and connected and good enough inside, that energy comes through in the session as well. There's a way that we are respecting ourselves, respecting our inner child, and we're respecting other people as well. So I like those little rings. It says, know thyself. And, you know, sometimes outside therapy is needed. Sometimes it's really beneficial to seek help with a counselor, to seek help with a mentor or a teacher who you can work with that can help you look at some of these issues of, gee, I can't believe I'm still having this issue of unworthiness about whatever it is, clearing that, and that will help you to be a better psychic. So I always say with my students that when you sign up for a psychic development class, you're actually signing up to sort of put yourself in more of an intensive situation where you're having to really listen to your inner voice, your inner guidance, and follow through and let go. Usually there's letting go of old beliefs, letting go of old ways of being, and moving into more of a courageous, trusting place. The world is our mirror. I love this picture of the man bursting through the wall. That we put up little walls around ourselves and we don't even realize it. And especially if you're very empathetic and you're very open psychically, you may put up these huge walls around yourself just so that you're not feeling everybody else's stuff. I know when I go to the gym, I always shield myself with light, and I put my headphones on, and I kind of go into more of an internal space so I'm not picking up on all the energy in there. It's also a loud environment, and my inner child doesn't like that really loud, bright environment. So it's important to tune into what your inner child needs and how you're protecting yourself. So when you accept that the attitudes and people offending you are actually extensions of your own self, you begin the process of healing your inner child. You stop projecting everything out there. You're the reason. You're the reason you're suspicious. Maybe you have a part inside yourself that's suspicious. Maybe that person is just reflecting some of your deepest, most submerged, subconscious ways of thinking or believing that, again, you probably got from your family of origin or from society in some of the situations with school, peers, and things like that. The healing of the inner child through the understanding of seeing the self reflected in others tears down walls of prejudice and discrimination and heals relationships, and that's really exciting. Doing psychic readings for people, it helps them to open up. It helps them to open up to their gifts. It helps them to open up to their purest and truest selves, and it helps them to open up to other people in their lives. And as a psychic, as you open up more and more, you will feel relationships healing. You will feel that you're no longer judging, and the person can feel that you're no longer judging. Because our higher selves, when we look through the eyes of our higher self, there is no judgment. When we're looking through the eyes of the angels, it's pure love. If anything, there's compassion. Children are born spiritually aware and sensitive. I love this baby. He's in the galaxy, and we come in from this place of expansion, and then we come into these third-dimensional bodies, and when these traits are encouraged, then we develop happy and healthy personalities. We're open psychically, and we are in tune with our soul's purpose. But let's take, for example, myself. I was born early. I was put in an incubator for like 5 weeks of life. I was barely touched. Back then, they didn't do much holding of the babies. And so for me, what happened was I kind of shut down. My mother told me, you slept a lot as a baby. You were hardly awake at all. Well, I think I was in the other realms, in the other dimensions, feeling my connection to those realms rather than being in this dimension, because I felt very isolated and alone. And especially being that I'm an identical twin, to be taken out of the womb and put into a glass box was a very harsh beginning. But that's the kind of stuff that we heal. So I may have deep inside isolation issues, feeling separate from, removed from, feeling issues with not wanting to be touched or hugged too much, just because of that basic programming from when I was little. But all of that can be healed. And as we open to our souls and our higher selves, that all comes into perspective and we get healed. And then we're more able to help others. I wanted to use this example of the Waldorf school because the Waldorf school is one of the only schools that I know of that really encourages a child's spiritual expression. The way that the music that they use, the colors you see in this classroom, there's a pink wall. It's kind of pink and yellow. The cloth fabrics are very soft. Instead of the harshness of, plastic and noisy toys, there's kind of a softness in there, a natural softness. And nowadays our children are being brought up with a tremendous amount of technology. And the good news about that is that they will be able to connect around the world globally in a much more efficient way. The bad news is sometimes it does cut them off from their intuition, from their ability to see auras, to feel feelings. They go into a more internal place rather than a place of connection. So, the Waldorf school does encourage sensitivity and openness by encouraging, like I said, song, storytelling, art, creativity, and they get to have free time to play, and they don't push the left brain development in terms of the reading and writing and math. They're letting the child develop spiritually first. And our world would probably be a very much different place if there was more students doing that kind of a curriculum. So most children are still connected to the needs of their bodies and emotions, but a lot of adults are not. And what happens is we learn to shut down our needs. We push, we have to go to work, so we keep working, even if our body's tired, or we don't eat because we don't have a break. I have a friend who has diabetes, and he actually passed out at his job because the job wouldn't let him take a break to eat. And it's those kind of things where if we could just take care of our inner child and compassionately love our inner child, that, children know. I work with children all the time, and I'm around children all the time. They eat when they're hungry, and when they're not hungry, they don't eat, and they don't push it. But how many adults only eat when they're hungry? A lot of times we eat out of our addictions to eat. Let's see, I put a candy bar here. Here's one of my addictions. Can you see the chocolate bar? Sometimes we eat because it makes us feel better, because there's feelings we don't want to feel, so we choose eating instead. That can be a way of disconnecting from our emotions and going into that automatic trying to feel better externally. Children, they know when to sleep, and if they're not tired, they're not going to sleep. Whereas adults, again, we push. For some adults, they end up sleeping, they go into depression, and they end up oversleeping rather than exercising the body and moving the body. So they're disconnected from their body's need to move. Children will seek friends when they're lonely. They don't just isolate themselves. Usually a child, if they see another child, they will make friends with that child. Even if the child is from another country or from another culture, they will reach out and make friends with that child. So they know that that's an innate need that they have, is for connection. And children, they usually are very naturally compassionate, that if they see another child in pain, most times they will go up and they will help. They haven't cut off from their feelings. They haven't cut off from their natural ability to reach out. So I have a little prop here. This is my little Christabel dog. I had a dog, and her name was Christabel, and she died when she was 13. And this little dog looks a lot like Christabel. And my inner child likes to hold this dog. Now, we all have an inner child within us, and we have to honor that inner child, that sometimes our inner child needs to have a little dog to hold. Or maybe you always wanted to have a horse. I always wanted to have a horse, so I have this horse. And this is for my inner child. And sometimes I just look at this horse and I just remember when I was a kid and I used to ride horses, and it made me feel good. It made me feel free, and it made me feel powerful. And so each of us has to tune in to what was it when we were a kid that made us feel good. Was there a special teddy bear we had? Was there a special red dress that we had? What was there that gave us a feeling of happiness? And when we can remember that, and some people say, well, I can't remember any of my childhood. It's all completely cut off. But honestly, if you really went into regression and hypnosis, you would remember. And there comes a place where you have to say, up until now, I haven't been able to remember my childhood. And now, I just want to challenge you, if you're one of those people that feels like, I can't remember my childhood, it was so bad, it's blocked out. Tell yourself, up until now, I haven't remembered. But now, I am ready. And work with somebody that you really trust, somebody that you feel comfortable with. There's a lot of therapists that work with inner child healing. There's a lot of specialists that work with inner child healing. There's play therapy. There's all kinds of different ways to get in touch with your inner child. And it's helpful to just be around children as well. So children, lots of times you notice that they gravitate towards bright colors. You see these kids with their blue mittens and yellow scarves, and they're just colorful and bright, and they tune into what feels good to them. I've seen children wear the same shirt 5 days in a row because it feels good. They like it. They don't care what you think. They don't care that they wore it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They want to wear it again because it feels good. And they, children, a lot of times they're drawn to like glittery and bold things. Think of the strong colors, the bright And, you know, you think about what adults wear. A lot of adults are wearing black and white and khaki, and they're not really vibrant and alive. They're not expressing their inner child through their wardrobes. So that's another way that you could look at your wardrobe and see, how would your inner child feel about the clothes that you wear? Do you have to wear the same thing every day? And if you do have a uniform that you have to wear, is there a way that you can kind of augment your wardrobe and wear something different on the weekends and glitz it up a bit? And I remember when I was 6 years old, more than anything, I wanted these sparkly little plastic high heels. I wanted them so bad. And we had a very poor family. My dad died when I was 6, and our family was kind of put into a crisis, and we didn't have money to get these shoes. But I wanted them, and I obsessed about these shoes. And even now, when I see children with those little shoes, because a lot of kids have those little plastic shoes, I remember the inner child. And as an adult, I've let myself get some pretty shoes, fancy shoes, to kind of heal that place where, as a kid, all I wanted was to feel like sort of a magical princess. So I think we may have that inside of us. So to just feel inside, what can you do to help your inner child to feel good? You might need to just get something more bright and colorful. Children love superheroes, and I think this is an interesting thing, is that they want to emulate them. They want to bring forth those qualities, those you know, powerful forces of good in the world, that they have an innate knowing that there is this sort of good and evil concept, but that good supersedes evil, and that in themselves, that they want to supersede the evil in themselves, perhaps the part that, you know, children can be a little selfish, they can be a little sort of, they want what they want when they want it, but the superheroes care about others, and the superheroes reach out and help others, and the superheroes have this ability and this power to be bigger than regular sort of human nature. And I think children have that within them, and I think we have it too as adults, and it's expressed more in our connection to the angels, to the ascended masters, to our spirit guides, to all these wonderful saints that have been on the planet that are now passed over, some of them, to religious leaders that are great and aspiring in terms of teaching us to love and have positive qualities. So there's a way that in each of us we have, as we open up to our psychic ability, we have this intuitive higher self that is all love, that is all knowledge, that is all wisdom. And that when we aspire to incorporate that part of us into our lives, how very different our lives can be when we actually say, I'm not going to just be my ego-driven small self that wants, you know, whatever that is, that's all about me and not about the larger picture in the world, that can step aside and serve humanity and serve others and serve the angelic realm as well. So today our topic is the inner child, and some of the qualities of inner children really pertain to how we develop as a psychic. Children love repetition. Have you ever sat with a child and they say, oh, read it again, read it again? You're like, I've read that book 100 times. They like the repetition. That's how they learn, and they don't mind it. But as adults, we think, oh, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to study it, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to get it, and that's it. And if you don't get it right away, you get frustrated. I have a friend who's taking dance classes with his wife, and she's been dancing her whole life, and it's really easy. And for him, he's like 70 years old. It's a lot to remember. And he actually said to me today, you know, I'm really understanding that it takes repetition, that I have to do it again and again and again. And then my body learns the dance, and then I can do it. And I said, that's right. And children, they do it naturally. A child learning how to shoot a basket in the hoop, they'll do it again and again and again until the body actually remembers it. And with psychic development, it's the same thing. You have to learn what it feels like to have that psychic door open. What does it feel like to shut down the external stimulation and focus internally so deeply and so clearly that you can actually receive auditory messages, visual messages, kinesthetic messages, and that claircognizant, which is just the knowing messages. So you have to practice. So if at this point, class 9, you have not been practicing with others, you really have to get on it. You have to call a friend. You have to take time and say, let's practice together. Let me just feel what's going on energetically with you. You can have the friend write down some questions, and you can have them ask, and you can feel what the answers are. Letting go of your own personal, remember you can use the little box under your seat to put the thoughts in, and anything that's going on with your body, you can just put all that in the box and become very, very present and connect with your guides, do the prayer, do the channeling checklist, scan your body, feel your body, and then be present and see what's there. You might be really surprised. Children are not afraid to make mistakes. And, I have 4 grown kids, but I remember with each and every one of them learning how to ride a bike. And, it's scary for a parent to all of a sudden let go, and when they take off, because they're probably going to fall. But that's how we learn, and we get back up. Babies learning to walk, they fall again and again and again, and they always get back up, and they keep going. And we have to do that. So if you're doing a reading and you share something and the person says, no, I'm not quite getting that, I don't understand, or you just keep going. And it's going to get easier and easier, and your information is going to flow more and more and more. Next week, we have a really exciting class. We're going to be working on signs and symbols and pictures, and they'll give you much more specific tools for bringing in that information. That'll give you a little more confidence as well. Right now, we're working still on opening and getting ourselves ready on the inside to really have the preparation to get these messages. Children love to try new things, and I want to commend each of you for being in this class and for trying and opening to your psychic development and your psychic ability, your intuition, that this will make a difference in your life, that you can learn how to be psychic, you can use it, you can receive messages through your dream world, you can receive it in your waking world, you can receive it when you're in a deeper trance state, and you can receive it when you're in a meditative state as well. And it's being willing to try new things. And I did talk about, last time, the biofeedback machine, that's a wonderful way to learn how to tune into your body and what it feels like to go to those deeper levels of being. But I would also recommend trying new things in life, that not just developing your psychic abilities, but trying out different instruments. If you've always wanted to play the flute when you were a child, why not give it a go? Ask your inner child, what did she or he really want to do when you were a kid that you never got to do? And just give it a try. Maybe you wanted to paint. Maybe you wanted to do an instrument. Maybe you wanted to travel. Just find out what it is and then do it. And you'll see an openness and a more of a balance and fullness come into your life. This little boy is looking at a bug on a bench, and children, they go into what I call between the worlds. They're not in the future and they're not in the past. They're in the realm of the present, and a really good psychic is very, very present. So when you're sitting and you've already done your preparation, you're centered, and your client comes in, and remember you want to put like a shield of light around you and a little rose in front of your heart, and your client comes in and you tune into their energy. You're so present that you can feel in your body and in your auric field what's going on with this person. And that's what they want. People come to you for a reading because they want to feel transparent. In life, so often we wear masks and put on faces in the world, but when people come for a reading, they want you to see what's going on beneath the surface. They want to understand what's going on. They want to feel you being able to feel them. And it's that presence, just like this little boy. He's totally looking at that bug. Now, who knows what that bug is? It could be a caterpillar or a ladybug, but all of his attention is there. And when you have somebody come to you for a reading, or you're doing a reading for yourself, I want all of your attention right there. I don't want 10% still left somewhere else. I want 100% attention and focus. Isn't that a great photo with the baby on the arm? Look at that baby. That baby is totally trusting that adult to hold them. And if you trusted your guides as much as this baby trusts that person, what a wonderful team you would be, because there's a relaxation. When we let go of trying, psychic work isn't about trying. Psychic work is about opening and trusting. And that's how children naturally are. But sometimes, again, you know, if you got dropped, if you got being held like that and you got dropped, the next time you were held like that, you'd be a little tense. And that's what we want to heal, so that we can come back into that trusting place. Children, look at this little boy, he's mad. They're able to feel their feelings, express them, and let them go. So if you have a feeling, I want you to pay attention this week. If you have a feeling, and the next day you're still feeling it, that is not from the situation that happened. That is definitely a lingering inner child issue that you need to deal with. Because if it was just from that present, you would have felt it, expressed it, and it would have passed. So that's where we're going to be talking about how can we really tune into our inner child and help to heal them so that they don't have to hold on to issues, that they can let go. Now, children require care, attention, love, respect, and yes, responsibility. It gives them a sense of purpose and meaning. Children that are very, very rich, that are given everything, that never have any responsibility, they don't necessarily turn out to be the happiest kids on the planet. They can have a little bit chaotic energy because there's no sense of boundaries. There's no sense of this is right and this is wrong. And they can emotionally get very demanding and very out of control because there's no limits or boundaries. So giving children responsibility does help them to have respect for themselves as well. You can see here the mother, the father, and then grandparents. So some of us didn't have mothers that were like this mom or fathers that were like this dad, but we may have had grandparents, or we may have had teachers, we may have aunties or uncles, or somebody in our life that in some way provided us some sense of security or safety or love. And it may have been minimal, it may not really have been as much as we needed, but it may have given us just a taste to know. And as we grow in life, we learn to welcome more of these things in our life. So if you're in a relationship where you're not feeling cared for, or where you're not getting attention from your spouse, or you're not feeling loved or respected, or feeling that there's a certain responsibility that you have, that's an inner child issue that you need to look at from an earlier time so that you can be really, really present in that relationship. And also these, if you think of this, children require, we as individuals require this really from our guides, that care, attention, love, respect, and responsibility, that our guides, when they work with us, our higher self, our angelic helpers, that these are the things that they offer as well, that they want us to be in all these ways, that they respect us. They know it's an honor and a blessing for them to get to work with us. Believe me, it's not just one way. We're not just honored to get to work with them, these ascended masters. They are honored to work with us, that we would take time out of our busy lives to tune in and to be part of their team is wonderful. And again, with all relationships, it takes care, attention, love, respect, and time. So that's an important aspect when we're opening psychically, that we tend to these aspects of ourselves as well. If a child's inner needs are not met, then addiction may be activated as an adult. Even as children, you'll see children that are food addicts, or children that are soda addicts, or they're movie addicts, or they're video games addicts. They're doing all this escape mechanisms. But usually as adults, it shows up, you know, the shopaholic who has to keep buying. I had this one friend, whenever she felt bad, she'd get in a fight with her husband, she'd go to the store and she'd buy all this stuff. And then when she felt better about herself, she'd return most of it. She usually would keep an item or two. But that's a shopaholic. I feel bad, so I'm going to try to fill the void rather than dealing with the feelings, letting them heal and letting them move through. Same thing with drugs, alcohol, any kind of escape mechanism, even excessive spirituality and religion. These can be ways of escaping the presence of the moment, that there becomes sort of a strictness. In some yoga communities, there's sort of all these rules that you have to follow, and in order to be a good devotee, you have to do this many chants or this many yoga postures or this many whatever it is. And that can also be a way of trying to meet the needs of the inner child who maybe grew up in a very chaotic home, who's looking for a sense of external structure and acceptance, rather than really coming from an inside place of tuning in to what really feels good. There's a way that when we grow up in unhealthy situations, we don't know what feels healthy and what feels good. We forget, and so we develop some of these. You see the guy with the phone with all the Post-its on his face is the workaholic. I'm valuable when I'm working, instead of what about the other part, which is more the flowing part. The wounded inner child. The wounded inner child, if he or she is there, they will always find ways to get attention. They will sabotage what you're doing. You'll have all these dreams and hopes, and they'll keep messing up. They won't follow through. They will get angry. They will get impatient. They will not be disciplined to get done what you want them to get done. They will find a way to get attention. So usually it's coming from a place of low self-esteem, and they're either anxious and worried, they're feeling critical, fearful, or depressed. And sometimes we're not even aware that we have an inner child that's doing all these things. But if you look at your life, and your life is not really the way that you thought it was going to end up with the dreams that you wanted, usually there's an inner child in there who's really hurt, and she really needs to be heard, or he really needs to be held, or he needs to be heard as well. So that's what we want to look at. And depression is anger that's turned inward on the self, and fear is forgetting everything's all right. And so there's a way that the inner child needs to know that they're safe in the world. This little girl reminded me of myself. When I was a kid, I used to go out in the woods and sit in a tree. When there was a lot of commotion in the house, I needed to go to a quiet place. And nobody ever really talked to me about my feelings. It was sort of just process them yourself kind of thing. I know there's more therapy now for children, and they're being encouraged, especially with the play therapy, to feel their feelings and to express them. And I think that will make for healthier children and healthier adults and a healthier society and world in general. Look at these boys. A pile of love. So the healthy inner child is innocent and trusting, alive, creative, and playful. So I want you to think right now, what are you doing in your life that's creative? What kind of creative projects do you have going on? Do you bake? Do you draw? Do you write? What do you do that's creative? How are you using your creativity? Because children are naturally creative and expressive. And there's a way that when the inner child is feeling safe, the creativity can come through. So think about that, what that might be for you. It could be flower arranging, or it could be woodworking. I have this one friend who didn't even start woodworking until he retired. And then all of a sudden he built a shop, and oh my goodness, the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pieces of work, of art that have been created from that place of giving his inner child time. He used to whittle. When he was a boy, he would whittle, and now it's turned into great woodworking. So what are you doing in your life that's innocent, trusting, alive, creative, and playful? Symptoms of the unhealthy inner child, they're expressed in two main modes. The first one is, I am a victim. I am a victim. It's not my fault. Look what they're doing to me. You can see this girl on her face. They're talking about me. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm such a victim here. There's a way that, this goes very, very deep. I am a victim. And if you have that kind of energy running through your system, you will again and again and again create situations where you feel like a victim. So if you're working with the channeling and psychic work, you'll feel like a victim. Oh, this negative energy came in and it overtook me. Instead of, I'm the one who's in command of this body. I am in a place of unconditional love. I am empowered and strong. And you can use all those tools that I gave you for banishing your space, that you're not a victim, and that energetically you don't have to take on other people's stuff, that you become empowered, but not in a power over others. It's a place of connection to your truest self and soul. So again, this runs very deep, this I am a victim, and a lot of us have it, and it's just a matter of being aware. Remember, know thyself. Watch, when are you reacting from that place? When do you automatically go into I'm a victim instead of What's my part in this? How could I have prevented this? How did I bring this on? That will make a difference, and that will help you with the work that you're doing with other people, because you'll feel whether they're feeling like a victim, or option number 2 is the intimidator. I will dominate over you rather than be a victim. So usually, and I say this when I'm working with children all the time, usually if somebody's teasing or bullying or doing put downs, it's because they feel very little inside. They don't feel good enough, and so that they're trying to put down others. And this happens with adults as well. It's not just children who do this, unfortunately. But because we each have these inner children inside, she's not good enough, she's not pretty enough, she's not smart enough, he's not capable enough, his career's not together. There's a way that, kind of the one-up place. So John DeMartini, I love when he says, instead of putting somebody on a pedestal that they're better than me and I'm the victim, or I'm better than them and they're less than, that we hold everybody in our heart. And that's the place, that place of being in the heart, that we're not the victim and we're not the intimidator, that we are, in our soul's perspective, of unconditionally loving and able to support with compassion and love and respect other people and where they are on their path. And certainly as psychics, that's the place where we want to do readings from. So self-esteem is a key factor in a healthy inner child, and that's going to feel like I am lovable, I am worthy, I am whole, I am valuable. You can see this little baby sitting in a chair just loving her toes, like, wow, I am lovable, worthy, whole, and valuable. Again, some of us didn't get those messages, and we're having to retrain ourselves. And when we do that, when we really incorporate that into ourselves, our lives change. Because when you feel lovable, worthy, whole, and valuable, other people feel that about you. And you will attract that kind of individual around you. Your guides will help you to bring that in more and more and more. And you'll be more of service to other people as well. Self-esteem must come from within, not from others around you. I love this little girl. She's like, here I am, like the movie star. She's just strutting her stuff, and she's feeling worthy. She's accepting herself. She has confidence, inner security, and self-love. Now, I was a shy child. I wasn't one of these kind of kids, but there's a way that through, I took, when I was young, I think I was about 20, I took assertiveness training, and that taught me about speaking up for what I wanted and needed. And I did Gestalt therapy training, I did psychodrama, I did individual therapy. I mean, I really working at helping my little girl inside to grow up and to feel good about herself and to trust my intuition. And we can all do that. We can all help ourselves grow up inside so that we can feel good and we can live our dreams and we can have visions of what we're meant to be doing. Sometimes, though, our inner child feels lost. Like, I love that closet with the little door. There's like an inner child that's locked in there, and she hasn't been let out in a long time. It's a little kid that's just shut away, locked inside. I don't have time for you. You're too whiny. You're too demanding. You have too many needs. I can't handle it. The little girl that's, in the corner, that she's just forgotten, that she feels, she has all these emotions going on, and there's no one for her to share them with. She's even put her little dolly down. And sometimes we have within ourselves a little forgotten inner child, just like that little girl or little boy who just needs love. Don't you want to just go and hug her and say, what's going on? How can I help you? Or this boy in the wheelchair who just feels ignored, like everybody else is in the limelight and I'm over here. Everybody else is getting the car and the home and the relationship and the blah, 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 and I'm not getting it. That's usually a message from your inner child. I feel ignored. That message, a lot of times parents say children are to be seen and not heard. Not anymore, but in earlier generations, that was the philosophy. And so we have this inner child sometimes who's still either hiding in the closet or in a corner or just feeling isolated, separate from other children and not part of the pack, not part of the group. And we want to work with healing him or her so that we can be really open to our feelings and not have this subliminal kind of negative programming going on, keeping us from our purest selves. So we have to let go. Let go, let go, let go. Let go of this old programming. Up until now, I was blah, blah, blah. Just practice doing this. Up until now, I was blah, blah, blah. And now I'm ready to zip line. Now I'm ready to meet my fears. Now I'm ready to be strong. Now I'm ready to see the lion and the kitten looking at the lion. I love that picture because it shows that the strength, that inside that little inner child, there's this adult. And that adult is powerful and will protect the kitten and will provide for the kitten and will be there to watch over that kitten. And we may not have had that when we were little. We may not have really had an adult who watched over us. And if that's the case, that's okay. But from here on out, I don't want you to keep whining about it. I want you to be aware that up until now, you haven't felt that you've had that. But you can be your own inner adult and inner protector. So we are going to do a meditation today with a little bit of an exercise, and some of it is going to be a forgiveness exercise. And we're going to ask our inner child if we can give him or her a hug. That a lot of times people just go up to children and they hug them. They're not even asking in terms of boundaries, is this okay? So if you are a child who people were constantly going into your boundaries, into your space, and you didn't learn that you could set boundaries on your space, you may have to learn saying, you know, stay out of my space. You know, if you had siblings that were in your room or in your stuff, or you had an adult that was in your space or something. So we're gonna just right now imagine that for your inner child, that if you could just say to your inner child, and try to picture what your inner child looked like. See if you might even have a picture of your inner child, and just real quick say to your inner child before we do the meditation, I'm sorry, I have ignored you. I love you. Please forgive me. And that comes from the Ho'oponopono. Remember we did that in an earlier class where we did the clearing negative energy. So that's part of the forgiveness. I want you this week to dialogue with your inner child. And the two things that I want you to ask your inner child, and you can do this with journaling as well, is what do you want and what do you need? And I want you to practice compassion and acceptance. And this is a mom with her child, but imagine that this was actually her adult self dialoguing with her inner child. And there's this little girl inside who's, you know, sometimes children can just talk on and on and on and on. And the adults are like, I can't take it, I can't hear anymore. But you can see this mother's really listening. Your inner child may really need you to listen. You might be in an environment at work or in a relationship or some situation where your inner child is not feeling safe and you're still persisting with it. Earlier on in my life, I was pretty young. I was in a relationship that I didn't feel safe, and this was before I got married, and my inner child was just frightened all the time until finally I had a therapist who said, you know, you don't have to stay in that situation. There's options. And she offered me some options, and all of a sudden my inner child felt, oh, I can get out. So sometimes we do that with ourselves. We stay in situations that aren't healthy, that aren't happy, that aren't safe, that aren't supportive of our whole psychic being, our whole self, because we don't know there's options. But talk to your inner child and find out how he or she is feeling, and if you might need to make some changes. And I want you to start practicing telling your inner child, you are magnificent beyond measure. And I'll cue these up on the, when I do the recording, I'll cue these up so you can go back and write these down. You are amazing. Feel that energy. You are amazing. You can do great things. You are beautiful inside and out, or you are handsome inside and out. I love you. You can see this woman, she has her finger here, and she's thinking inside, I can reprogram. I can retrain my inner self. So now we're going to do a guided meditation. I want you to get really comfortable wherever you're sitting. And just allow yourself to take a deep breath in. What's happening to the music? Give it a minute to come up. And you can see in this picture, there's a playground. And if you don't remember a playground from childhood, I'd like you to go to this playground in the picture. But if you remember a playground that you played at when you were a child, you can go there right now. And first, let's just relax the body a little bit. So let's take a deep breath in and bring that deep breath all the way down to our feet. Because your inner child is inside waiting for you for a little play date. I want you to listen to all the sounds that are around you right now. Just become aware of all the sounds. Feel your breath going in and out of your lungs. And relax. Just relax. Remember the baby on the arm, how relaxed that baby was? Breathing in and breathing out a deep, deep peace. Letting yourself just relax. Now I want you to go back in time and space to a playground or park that you played in when you were a kid. And just let it appear. I don't want you to try to do this. If for some reason you can't grab one from your memories, let this playground or this park be the place where you can play. And I want you to see your inner child. See him or her in that playground or park. And notice what they're doing. Where are they? And now I want you to just walk towards that child. This is your adult self. Is walking towards the little you that's in the playground or the park. And your child looks up and sees your adult self, what you look like now, coming toward him or her. And let them just make eye contact so you see your child self. Looking at your adult self. And now feel your adult self looking at your child self. And as your adult, look at your child and see the color hair. Look at the shoes. What shoes are you wearing? What shoes is your inner child wearing? Are they sneakers, sandals, boots, bare feet? And then notice the clothes that this child is wearing. Are they shorts or pants or snowsuit or dress? Is it a sports uniform? What is it? What is your child wearing? And notice the hair, the way that the hair is on the child. And now notice how this inner child is standing. And just see if the child looks confident, or if the child looks tired, or if the child looks excited or happy or peaceful or scared. Just take in this beautiful inner child at the park. Now I'd like you to just reach out your hand to the inner child and say, "Hi, I am your adult self, and I've come to play. Would you like to play?" either the park or the playground, and see what your child says. Now for some of you, your inner child might be kind of mad at you because you've forgotten them for so long and they don't really want to play with you. And for others, your inner child might be bouncing up and down with joy, so excited to see you and that you want to play. Let your inner child have their feelings, whatever they are. Just notice. And as your adult self, you allow your inner child to just have their feelings. That whatever they're feeling is okay. So if your inner child said yes, then you can do an activity at the park or the playground. Perhaps you're going to go down the slide or swing or dig in the sandbox or play on the structure in the woods. And just feel what that feels like to just play together. To just say to your inner child, do you want to play hide and seek? Do you want to play a game? Perhaps your inner child has an idea of what they would like to play, and they can invite you in. And just enjoy this time. And if your inner child's not really ready to have you play with them yet, just let them be, and you can watch from a distance. And watch your inner child and see how he or she is and what they're doing. Okay, now I'd like you to invite your inner child to meet you at a bench nearby. That there's a little bench that you can sit on together. So invite them to come and sit with you, to join you. On this bench. And feel your hand reach out and just ask if you can hold their hand, if that would be okay. And feel your inner child's reaction. Are they drawing back? Are they reaching out? Does your inner child want to connect? Sometimes our inner child has lost faith in us. And trust takes only a moment to break and many, many experiences to rebuild. So if your inner child feels that you've maybe neglected them or forgotten them, or they feel a little separate from you, be patient, be loving, be kind. And just let them know that you're there and you can sit in silence with them. Allow all the feelings to be okay. Whatever they're feeling is fine. And now let your inner child know that you're really excited about getting to see them. That you would like to rebuild your relationship with them. And you can share with them that you've decided that you want to open up to your psychic ability more. And that you want to be more intuitive. And that you want to open to your healing abilities and your clairvoyant and clairaudient, claircognizant abilities. That you want their help in feeling again. That you realize you may have gotten busy in your life and that you've forgotten how to fully feel. And just look at your inner child and ask them, what do they need? What do they want? What are they feeling? And if there's any feelings of mad or sad, fear, depression, let them know that you're here right now to listen to them. That you really, really care about them. See if they'll let you reach out and kind of pat their head and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you needed me. Sorry I didn't hear you. I'm sorry I didn't get you what you needed. Maybe they wanted art classes, or they wanted dance classes, or they wanted a puppy. Maybe your adult self had a lot of reasons why they couldn't have what they wanted. But for right now, you want them to know that you're sorry, that their needs are important, and that you want to pay more attention to them. So though it may not be practical for you to have a dog, maybe you could make an arrangement with your inner child that you could go to the Humane Society and play with the dogs. Or you could dog sit for someone else. Or maybe there's another negotiation that you can make with your inner child, so your inner child feels heard and loved and appreciated and respected. Maybe your inner child never had a room of their own when they were a kid, and they always wanted to just have their own little special space, their own little kind of creative area to do art or to write. Maybe you could provide that. Maybe you could let them know that you really want to provide that for them. Or maybe your inner child felt very separate, and she or he really wants friends. Want some deep, loving connections and friendships. Let your inner child know that you really care about them and that you want them to have connections and support. Sometimes our inner children, they had to grow up really, really fast. They had a lot of responsibility, and they didn't get to just play. They don't even know how to play. Maybe your inner child's just sitting on the bench saying, oh, we're at the park, what are we doing here? Instead of feeling that he or she can really just play. So maybe you can say to your inner child, I really want to play, and it's okay. Let me handle the details of life, the day-to-day activities, and I want you to play. What would your inner child want to do? Who would they want to play with? Where would they want to go? Do they want to ride a bike? Do they want to go to the toy store? What do they want? What does your inner child want? Just ask. Because this inner child, when he or she is happy and relaxed and feeling safe and free, they're incredibly intuitive, incredibly open, incredibly clear. So see if you can give your inner child a little bit of a hug and let them know that you care deeply about them, that you're going to be spending more time with them, that you'll be journaling and writing to them, that you'll be listening more to them, that you'll be making play dates with them, that you will be bringing them into your life more and more, especially as you open up psychically, and that you honor them. You honor their needs for food, for sleep, for safety, their needs in the world in terms of if they're very, very sensitive, that you're taking care of their environment, that you're putting them in a safe place, that you are providing for them, that they don't have to feel frightened that they're not going to have enough or they're not going to be enough, that who they are is enough and that they are provided for, that you will be making decisions for their betterment, and that you'll consult with them before you make any big decisions in your life. You'll check with your inner child and see how they feel. If you're thinking about moving, if you're thinking about changing something, you're going to check inside with them. Let them know you care. And give them a hug. Let them hug you back. Give them this little kiss on the head. Say, I love you. You're important to me. And then see your inner child getting off the bench and going back to the playground and looking over at you, giving you a little wave and a little smile. Because he or she knows now that you care. That never again will they be forgotten. Never again will they be pushed aside or ignored or left alone or left to cope on their own. That you care and you're there for them. And that you're sorry for ever having said anything negative to them in any way. And you want only the best for them. Then give a little wave and start walking away and letting them play, having their playtime. And then bring your awareness and your attention back into this time and this space, hearing my voice and feeling your adult body sitting here on the chair or the floor or the bed or wherever you're sitting. Hearing the music, knowing that today is the first day of the rest of your life, and that this relationship that you just reestablished is the most important connection you can ever make. Because this inner child is the part of you that is pure and free and whole. So you might want to do a little bit of journaling after the class is over today about your inner child and how your inner child was feeling and how they were responding to you. And there's some wonderful materials that are available that I want to recommend for healing your inner child, for getting to know your inner child. Some of these are older materials, but they're still really, really good. This Homecoming by Dr. John Bradshaw is like a landmark author in terms of the inner child healing work. And Charles Whitfield as well, Healing the Child Within. And then Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child by Thich Nhat Hanh. And love that picture of the child jumping up and feeling and letting yourself have some playtime. There are some free meditations on YouTube that you can go to for healing your inner child, for meeting your inner child and having conversations. So this was just a little introduction today, but there's a lot more materials that are available. These are just two of many, many, many that you can do. Then for therapy, creative play therapy, you see this woman hugging kind of a big purple, I don't know, critter, but it's giving her a sense of safety and support. Then there's a sand tray at the bottom. A lot of therapists use this with children, but it can be very good for healing the inner child as well. It's a way that you pick an item in the tray and you talk about it and you feel and you express, so you can get more information about play therapy. This is really good for those adults who grew up too fast, who didn't really get to play, who can't really express their emotions. I think of the sort of scientific, super responsible, left brain dominant individual who is very task-oriented and cannot be spontaneous and flowing, kind of like the woman in the upper picture where she's jumping and dancing and moving. So there's that balance of how do we come back into that creative, expressive self. So your homework for this week, so that you can open up and be ready for next week, is to write a letter to your inner child. And I want you to include an apology and the things that you love about them. So it's a two-part. The first part is, dear inner child, like I would say, dear little Liah, I'm sorry for whatever that might be, for being critical or whatever that could be. And the things that you love about your inner child. What do you really love? Like, I have a really outrageous laugh, and people always tell me that I have a really loud and crazy laugh. And that's my laugh of my inner child. That's not something I think about. When I'm really happy, it just comes through, and it's sort of almost contagious. That I want my inner child to know that I really love that about her. That when she's excited, my laugh shows that. So what do you love about your inner child? Find at least 3 things that you really love about your inner child, and write that down. And I want you to set a play date with your inner child, to actually take time to play with your inner child, to do something that's fun. For me, I like to horseback ride, so that would be a wonderful play date with my inner child, is to go horseback riding and let her have that fun time. And to do a creative, fun project with your inner child, something that you don't normally do. That, it could be gardening, it could be planting seeds, it could be face painting, it could be I don't know. You're going to have to think and ask, what did your inner child always want to do? And then I want you to journal a little bit about what your inner child's dreams are, what their hopes are. Because when we let go of our dreams and hopes from our inner child, we lose our vision for our life. And part of being psychic and open is bringing those visions into reality, is bringing juice and energy to them so that we can live them. But it starts with just getting to know, remembering what was your inner child's fantasy, what was your inner child's vision or dream for yourself. And in some ways, so let's say you always wanted to act on stage, maybe there's a local theater you could join. Maybe there's a way that you can do theater in the schools. Maybe there's a way that you can let that out in some way. It doesn't have to be as big and grandiose as what you thought. It could be a start. And sometimes it's just those little steps along the way. Little steps along the way. If you always wanted to learn to sail, you just have to learn to take a lesson. So find out what that is. And you get to go to a toy store and buy a special present for your inner child. Remember, I had the horse and the doggy. Yours might be a yo-yo or a jump rope or something that you really like, something for your inner child. Maybe you have a special pet and you can get a stuffed animal that reminds you of them. So buy a present for your inner child. And then the last is to actually play a game with your inner child. So that would be, basketball or jacks or jump roping or something of that nature, that you're actually playing a game with your inner child. So you have a lot of inner child exercises to do. And again, why does this help your psychic ability? Because that is the seat of your intuitive self. That happy inner child is naturally psychic, is naturally trusting, is naturally open. That's where we want to get back to. So in summary, we did review the homework. We answered some questions. We learned about the importance of a happy, healthy inner child, to opening to psychic ability and gifts. And this is your reminder, is as you feel the feelings that are there, you heal, and then you can be more real in your life. So as you heal your inner child, you become more authentic in your life. And as you become more authentic, you become more who your soul really wants you to be, that divine, empowered part of yourself. Has much more freedom in life. And you become... I was thinking, because I pulled the angel card of freedom today for the inner child, and it looks like this, and it's angels. And one of the things it said is that the freedom card is about expressing your true thoughts and feelings with love, that you have the power to be free when you realize this freedom follows, that everything is by choice and you can choose again. Do what you love. There's no need to feel trapped. So when our inner child feels free and isn't trapped by those old programmings and old ways of feeling not good enough, there's a whole liberation that happens. And in terms of your psychic development, you give yourself permission to be wildly psychic, to be wildly, outrageously expressive and intuitive. So next week, our class is lesson 10, and that's going to put us halfway through this 20-class series. And it's working with specific symbols and pictures in conjunction with your guides and higher self. So you're going to be developing a whole system of symbols working with your higher self so that you can clearly and accurately give information for people in readings. But this week, the focus is on your inner child and letting him or her out and feeling and healing and coming back into that place of wholeness. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I just want to see if there's any questions. You're welcome to email me or text me and ask me your questions, and then we will include them in the next class. If there's a question now, if anybody wants to type it really quick, and you remember you want to put the question goes to on lower right, it would say to Liah Howard, the presenter. So I'm just going to give you a second to see if anybody has a question. And in the meantime, I'm hoping that this week will be a magical week because your inner child believes in magic and your inner child believes, we have a few thank yous. You're very, very welcome. Your inner child believes in the mystical and the mystery and all the wonderful things. So I want to thank each and every one of you. Have a beautiful and blessed week, and I will see you here again next week. Thank you so much for being here.